You know that feeling, right? You set a goal, you're all fired up about it, but then you miss one day. And suddenly this wave of guilt just washes over you and stops you dead in your tracks. It's this heavy, paralyzing weight. So, how do we break free from that? Well, today we're going to design something called a personal Kaizen system. Now, Kaizen is this brilliant Japanese idea about making small, continuous improvements. We're going to borrow that philosophy to build a system that works for the real you, not some perfect, idealized version of yourself that only exists in your head. And here's why this is so important. Most self-help systems, they're just too rigid. They set up this awful guilt cycle where missing one workout or one writing session doesn't just feel like a small slip-up. No, it morphs into this huge, heavy story we tell ourselves about being a failure. We're going to put a stop to that cycle. And here's our game plan, broken down into 5 parts. First, we're going to start with just one thing. Then, we'll make that habit ridiculously easy. Third, we'll learn how to track our progress without any judgment. Fourth, we'll figure out when to scale up or scale back. And finally, we'll see how all of this comes together to create a system that actually supports you. All right, let's dive into principle number 1, starting with just one single thing. This is all about learning how to quietly bypass our brain's internal alarm system, the one that so often sabotages our best efforts. I mean, come on, we've all done this. It's Monday morning and we decide, this is it. I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m., meditate, go to the gym, and write a novel, all before work. But the second one of those things doesn't happen, that feeling creeps in, that feeling that we've already ruined the whole thing. And our nervous system, it hears that as a threat and immediately slams on the brakes. So the solution is almost deceptively simple, but it is incredibly powerful. Just one. Pick one single thing to focus on. Not 5, not even 3, just one. It cuts through all the noise and it keeps that internal alarm from going off. And this is really the heart of the whole idea. We're not trying to become a totally different person by tomorrow. We're just introducing a tiny, manageable shift. This is how we stop that heavy story of failure before it even has a chance to start. Okay, so you've picked your one thing. Now for the second principle. We have to make the habit itself feel almost effortless. This is all about lowering that emotional hurdle of just getting started. You know, we can't depend on motivation. It's a fair weather friend. It's never around when you actually need it. The real secret to being consistent is making the task so easy that motivation becomes irrelevant. We need to lower that barrier to entry so there's almost zero friction to just begin. So what does ridiculously easy actually look like? Well, instead of your goal being write for an hour, your goal is just open the notebook. That's the win for the day. It's not run a 5K, it's just put on your trainers. That's it. That's the whole task. And why does this work so well? Because when the task is that tiny, there's no threat, there's nothing for your brain to freak out about, nothing to protect you from. You're aiming for a habit so small you can achieve it even on your absolute worst, lowest energy day. And that means you can stay consistent without ever having to beat yourself up to get going. Okay, so we're starting small. But what about tracking progress? For a lot of us, this is where things can really go sideways. That little checkmark box can so easily turn into a weapon we use against ourselves, right? So to fix this, we need a new way of thinking, neutral accountability. It's a total reframe. I want you to start thinking of yourself as a scientist in a lab coat. You're not judging your worth when you look at your progress. You're simply collecting data. Think of it like this. If you miss a day, your tracker isn't yelling, "You failed," at you. It's not a big red mark on your report card. It's just data. It simply says, the streak paused here. That's all. It's an observation, not an accusation. So in practice, this completely changes the questions you ask yourself. You stop that downward spiral of, why do I always mess this up? And instead, you just get curious. You ask, what happened? Maybe you were exhausted, maybe something unexpected came up. It lets you tweak the system instead of blaming yourself and giving up. This brings us to our fourth principle, which is all about the long game. This is the art of sustainable progress, which means knowing when to push a little harder, but also, and this is key, knowing when to ease off. Now, the biggest trap here is trying to grow too fast. You have a few good days in a row, you start feeling invincible, and you try to triple your effort. Don't do it.
The rule is simple. You only grow the task when the current level feels, and this is the key word, boringly easy.
And here's the other side of that coin, the part most systems totally ignore. When life gets stressful, when things get chaotic, and they will, you have to give yourself full permission to shrink that habit all the way back down to that ridiculously small first step. See, this is how you stay in the game with your dignity intact. By adjusting the task to match your energy, you make sure that one bad day doesn't derail your entire week. You're not quitting, you're just lowering the bar so you can still clear it. So, when we bring all of this together, what do we get? Well, you don't get a rigid, punishing cage of rules that you're trapped inside. You get a flexible, compassionate support structure that is actually designed to help you, a real human, succeed. It really just boils down to these 4 ideas. Keep your actions small. Track your progress like a curious scientist. Absolutely refuse to use guilt as your fuel. It's just bad fuel. And always, always adjust the task to match the energy you have on any given day. This is what makes consistency truly possible. And look, if you only take one single thing away from our time together today, please let it be this. You do not need to earn the right to start again. Every single moment is a fresh start. You can just begin right now.
So, I'll leave you with this question. After all this, what's your one thing? And more importantly, what is that ridiculously small first step you can take? Maybe even today.